Welcome back. How counties fix big money's tenders is also what we want to discuss on. There's a crisis as unremitted workers' pension also is affected. These are some of the issues we want to tease out on this other side of a break, and also look at the activities at Nairobi Security Exchange right now. What is the latest development? And by the way, Kenya also, shilling has been listed as the best performing lately. And we know where we're coming from, so we shall be looking at that as well. But looking at, before we just delve deeper onto that, this is a very worrying trend, especially from the counties, Kiprono Kitoni, looking at how counties are fixing big monies and tenders. It says audit reports for the year ended June 30th, 2023 reveal how rules are routinely bent by county officials to hand lucrative contracts to preferred merchants, leaving taxpayers to incur heavy losses in inflated prices and huge payments for shoddy or no work done at all. When will we get out of this morass? Shocking details of how 15 governors played the IFMIS system, diverted cash, and we were talking about IFMIS last week on how they're gaming the system as well. But we can see this is where we're losing money when it comes to corruption as well and counties. Briefly.
Very briefly, without belaboring the point too much, one of the things that has been that everybody is aware of, and I think we cannot deny, is the fact that as a country we've been unable to deal with high-level graft, not just in the counties, but even in the national government, even in parastatals. I think as a country we have not been able to shake off the end justifies the means mindset. We haven't been able to engender an environment where the spirit of free enterprise thrives, where competitiveness will be what gets you ahead. And I think I would say, I'll be brutally honest by saying that today, perhaps there is more liquidity in the hands of public servants and politicians than there is in the hands of business people. And that's the reality of Kenya that we live in today. Trying to run a legitimate business today is one of the most difficult things if you're going to comply with all the taxation and the requirements, the onerous regulatory requirements that one has to fulfill to run that enterprise. And for that reason, even creating employment becomes a very huge challenge. For me, I think that the big animal in the room is graft. And it can be stated without any fear of contradiction that we have not been able to nail down the dragon of graft. And it continues to permeate our society, it continues to permeate our public sector through procurement graft that we are seeing today and through that report that talks about the counties. I'm very sure that the same will be manifested when the Public Accounts Committee of Parliament does come out. We've got a very big culture of allowances where public officers are used to just taking away huge amounts in terms of allowances to travel and do all sorts of other frivolous things. Many times we see government issuing directives saying we are stopping this when they're stopping that. But the reality is the environment that as it is set up today, notwithstanding the huge gains that we have in the macroeconomic management of Kenya this year, is that graft continues to hold us back in several regards and makes us unable to actually fulfill the lofty ideals that we had in Vision 2030 and even in the manifestos of the parties that are in power today.
Right. Let's hear from Bunyasi Sako.
Thanks, Debal. I was deep into something else, so
yeah,
I had not followed you.
We're just looking at what the counties are, this particular splash of the Daily Nation as well.
Yes.
Or we can, let's hear from Iraqi.
Yes, that's corruption in the counties. One time I visited a county, I will not disclose the name, but I was visiting a home, and there was a hill. So there's a main road, a small road up the hill, and you go to the other home. It was about 2 kilometers from the main road up to the home. So the first 500 meters up the hill was very well, there was very good manner. But after you go up the hill, there was nothing. In fact, I got stuck in the mud. And I was asking somebody, why would this road not be complete? And I was told, you see, unaweka mawe pahali watu wanaona. So when people are passing, they will be saying, this politician is doing very good work. He is building our roads, our feeder roads. But I don't know whether that road was paid in full or 500 meters instead of 2 kilometers. So when you talk about graft in the county, it's a reality. And it's very sad because in the spirit of 2010 Constitution, we're supposed to devolve power and the resources to the counties. because they align better with what happens in the counties. So the road corridors would know what is the best need for the county. But it started that the counties became centers of political mischief, centers of economic mischief. And people seem to believe that corruption was devolved. In fact, some people believe that one reason why we fought for devolution so hard was not to improve the life of Wanjiku and others, but to make sure that we also share in the bad habits that were happening in the center. And that was what one of them is corruption. And we have talked about corruption and the graft for a very long time. But my solution has already been very simple. Corruption will not stop until the voters wake up. Because the people who enjoy the fruits of corruption will never fight it. But it's the voters, ordinary people like you and me, who suffer. So unless they wake up and say, we have voted you in, but we must watch over you. Unless that happens, we are going to stop. We are going to keep on complaining about this. And let's also remember that at the end of the day, everybody is focusing on sharing the money that is collected. Nobody focuses on how that money is generated. And he put it very clearly that we have not really come to respect enterprise. Mm-hmm. We have not come to respect capitalism. Mm-hmm. So let's focus more on how we generate revenues and money, not how it's shared, because anybody can share. But we also must give incentives to the people who make money, pay taxes, and make sure the government lands and other institutions. But at the end of the day, it is the voter who should be vigilant all the time.
Fantastic. Let's see the activities, of course, at the Nairobi Security Exchange right now, where the Nairobi Security Exchange Incubator Program, IBUCA, has struggled to revive listings on the bourse more than 5 years since launching in December 2018. Of the more than 30 firms enrolled on the incubator platform, only Homeboys Entertainment Limited has graduated listing on the bourse by introduction in December 2020. This type of listing occurs when a company takes its existing issued shares and lists them on an exchange. Some firms on the IBUCA platform have recently run into headwinds, turning the would-be new listing into going concerns. Last June, for instance, the High Court ordered the liquidation of the Tuskers supermarket chain, ending a 30-year-long journey for the family-owned firm after the retailer racked up 20 billion shillings in arrears to creditors. The NSC lists the benefits of the IBUCA program as capital markets access, visibility, expert advisory, business sustainability, and value discovery. But before we head there, let me just get indication of the Capital Markets Authority developing margin trading regulations as part of interventions to revitalize shares trading at the Nairobi Security Exchange. Maybe you can broaden an understanding on how this is panning out as well.
Let me start with IBUCA
and
say that IBUCA is one of the great innovations of this. The Kenyan capital markets, especially the NSC, came up with several years ago. And the whole point of IBUCA was to create a pipeline of companies that would lead to listing. So we identified many enterprises. I think there's close to 30 enterprises today that are in our IBUCA program. And many of these are family-owned or individually owned enterprises that were doing well, that had an aspiration to develop themselves into a listing program. Now, the purpose of the IBUCA program was to enable the business owners to develop their governance structures, to develop their legal ecosystem into a manner that it can be investor-friendly and investor-ready, to develop resilient business models that could be able to stand the test of time, and also to really fashion them in a way that they could go into the main market segment of the exchange. Now, the macroeconomic conditions over the last 7 to 10 years have not been very favorable for many of these enterprises. And these are enterprises that are not large enterprises, they're medium-sized enterprises. And many of them have faced significant challenges with profitability, with overarching regulation and viability. So the program is ongoing, and we have been able to even attract more companies in the recent past to join the IBUCA program. Yes, it is true that we've not been able to have any successful listings apart from Homeboys that did a preliminary listing. However, the program is still proceeding, and the positive macroeconomic environment that we are seeing over the last couple of months will probably put these companies in a better stead to move themselves forward into a listing type of situation. And one of the other challenges that we have faced with the Ibuka program is with the business owners themselves, because going into a capital raise through listing will involve by inherently that they cede ownership. So many of the business owners are struggling with the concept of ceding ownership of their own enterprises, especially if they are founders. There's a big founder syndrome element that has stood in the way of the progression of these companies into full listings. If we look at the company that you cited, for example, Tuskys, I think Tuskys falls very much squarely into the same scenario that, say, Nakumatt fell into, and many of Imperial Bank and others that were actually very, very viable concerns. But because of pure lack of governance, many of these enterprises did not see, the light of day today. So we continue to push the Ibuka program forward, and we believe that the improved macroeconomic conditions will make these companies more able to progress. We are still encouraging the governments to reconsider the huge tax burden that is being placed on enterprise. We need to get the government also to look at ways of incentivizing employment creation, enterprise development. But today I am involved in many businesses, Debar, and I can tell you it has never been so difficult in terms of running enterprise on the ground in this country. And especially if you're up against, for example, other enterprises that are just thriving on graft. I mean, we were talking about a few minutes ago, the graft that is taking place in the counties, the graft that is taking place in parastatals and in the public sector and even in the private sector. So the environment has been very, very challenging, and I think the long-suffering business owners need a pat on the back, especially if they continue to exist. I mean, yourself, you are here in the Standard Group. I mean, we know that you know the challenges you're facing. And it is a perfect example of a company that is very viable, but today you can't get your debts paid. So, you face an existential crisis every day. So owning an enterprise like this 20 years ago, was a pleasure. Owning it today is probably a pain more than a pleasure. Yeah. But those are the realities.
Is there any rhyme or reason why we have homeboys who they've graduated now to the main listing?
Yes.
Because I think we're all facing the same constraints, externalities,
Yes.
the Hamas-Israel war as it stands.
Yeah.
I think since the inception also of Ibuka, COVID happened, and we know the rigors of COVID as well. At the end of the day, I mean, there has been many challenges along the way.
Yes.
But what has been, I don't know, you don't hold brief from homeboys, but you
Yes.
could tell
I mean,
what really worked for homeboys that other have not been managed now to graduate in fast.
Okay, one thing is that the Rabat brothers are very good entrepreneurs. They're very seasoned business people. They've been able to build a very successful company, eventing company with a huge inventory. One day I remember I did a visit to their company, and I saw the inventory of equipment that they have for eventing, and I was completely astounded because they have a huge inventory of assets, and they have been quite dynamic in terms of their approach. They have a trading academy for media personalities. They have the outdoor business. They have the media assets, the Homeboys Radio, and etc. So they have quite a few diversified assets, and literally at the end of the day, it depends. I mean, it's down to the prowess of the entrepreneur behind an enterprise and his ability to see the opportunity in a capital raise through the exchange, which is what Homeboys has done. Their shares have not traded very robustly, but I do believe that it is still an example of what can be done by a company coming into the Ibuka program, going through the process of a governance restructure, a governance infusion, improvement in their legal structures, improvement in the dynamism of their business modeling, and etc., in order to prepare them to be investor ready.
Yeah.
Can I
Sure. Welcome
jump
back.
in
Yeah.
to what Kip is saying? Because I'm involved in a company that wants to get into the Ibuka incubator. And I chair the board of the company, and the key thing is that, as it says, the entrepreneur, the people in that company have to want to get out of Ibuka into the main boss. A lot of companies sometimes go into Ibuka and that gives them a certain bragging right and allows them to get a bit of capital into the company. But if they don't use that capital and the opportunities that being in Ibuka generates for that company to grow significantly, so they can get into the main exchange listing, then they will stay there forever. So I think what is happening is the NSE is giving the opportunity, and Ibuka was an opportunity for you to operate as a sort of a quasi-listed company, allow you to grow and really become adept at working within a listed environment. Because the governance and the expectations in terms of shareholders and everything else within a listed environment is different from the one that a typical entrepreneur will run as their own company. And it is important that the entrepreneur plus the board that is running that company are thinking forward and running that company to say, we want to grow to be a 200 billion shilling or 300 billion shilling company within this period of time, and you follow the guidance that Ibuka gives you, and you grow and you grow and you grow until you outgrow the Ibuka space and you get proper listing. So I think the NSC has done its job. It's now for the entrepreneurs to do their job, to take a part of that opportunity.
Patrick Obath is a governance expert, and he does a lot of work in that regard in Kenya. You will be surprised at how many enterprises in Kenya today don't have a board, don't call regular meetings, do not have board committees that oversight management, like audit committees, HR committees, do not have a policy, any policies relating to anything. And so these enterprises are only operating with the skill set of the CEO or the founder owner. And when you try and take an enterprise like that and take those powers away from the CEO and that founder and into a governance structure that sort of puts him at an arm's length and makes him accountable to other structures in the organization, you'll be surprised at how many of them will just turn around and say, look, we're not interested in this. But if you want if you were to do a historical evaluation about why companies like Nakumatt failed, well, it is for exactly the same reason, that you have a powerful founder who runs things as he pleases, controls procurement as he pleases, remunerates people as he pleases, with no accountability to anybody. So we have played our role, as Patrick says, in terms of trying to create a framework, in trying to create a program that enables companies to go through what we are doing at the Ibuka program.
But the biggest question will be, and you'll come back and maybe I'll just leave it to you to mull over, is the question also maybe vetting the companies that are also enlisting in the Ibuka. Because if we have a case in point, as you've mentioned, even Nakumatt, we knew what was happening with Tuskers before, talking about corporate governance, family-led companies or owned companies at the end of the day, and we have them coming to Ibuka, hoping to graduate to the listing as well. Then what are the checks and the balances when even it comes to corporate governance? I think you will answer that, but let's hear from...
Yeah, I'm enjoying this conversation because when Nakumatt went under, somebody wrote in one of the Kenyan dailies, I don't remember, and he was celebrating. He was saying, we told you, you risked, we support you, but you refused. So clearly there's that every entrepreneur's dream that one day they'll be listed in the stock exchange. And you get the pride and the bragging rights. And that's why I really like the idea of Ibuka. I don't know who came up with the name Kitone, but I like the name in Swahili. So that's it's a Roko name. And I saw a list of about 26 firms when I checked online that are in the Ibuka program. And I think NSC, whatever has happened, you should not relent on making sure that more firms are listed in the stock exchange. I know the macroeconomic environment is not very good, from COVID to other things, but that should not stop you from soldiering on. One of my most memorable eras, economic era in Kenya, was actually the Kibaki era, because of IPOs. A lot of companies were listed. And all of you can see the economic effect of listing those companies. I know the current government has made promises, but you probably would want more to be listed. Because we shall have more people owning the capital, more people participating in the stock exchange, in the stock securities exchange. And that has a demonstration effect. More companies, more smaller companies would aspire to go and get listed. And I can be selfish. Even if us in academia will benefit. We will have more case studies of Kenyan-owned companies. So that we don't just talk about Apple, about IBM and other companies. We want our own listed companies. And if there's any support you would want to get from the academia to have more companies in Ibuka, like mentoring and so on, please call upon us.
Yes. Thank you. We will take that offer.
He's seeking consultancy, in a very interceptive way.
So I think
I am an entrepreneur.
the other side of Ibuka, I think that would be very beneficial is these whole privatization programs of government-owned enterprises.
Yes.
There are some that are on the verge of commercialization, would perhaps thrive if they became publicly listed companies because of the rigors that they have to go through before they get listed. That helps to open up systems. It helps to evaluate.
It's sort of a sandbox.
Leadership.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So I think it's a very beneficial program. I see a lot of pain and struggles to privatize publicly owned enterprises, but the mode of privatization is always repeating what existed prior to the attempt to privatize. A few owners, you don't get it from those few owners to another set of few owners, but without changing the business model, without changing the governance structure and so on. That really is what probably we need. And we would find that we have privatized without having decided to put it in the hands of known faces, but collectively put it in the hands of many different owners, some small, some large, but in open governance systems. So I think it is a very powerful direction to go. And I hope that we will push it, not just dilute the founder syndrome, but also, for example, to dilute state capital that in many ways it is the bane of these companies, the bane of development for these companies.
Right, Kitoni, as we wind up on it.
I do agree with my colleagues, and I agree. I mean,
With the question I'd asked you regarding especially Tuskys,
Yes.
unless you want to chime in on that, but don't forget that one.
I mean, for a country with the size of Kenya's GDP, and the commercial landscape of this country, I think a list of less than 30 is still scratching at the surface, and I do believe there's a lot more work to be done. And one of the things that we are doing now is we are conducting an investor roadshow. First of all, we're starting it globally, taking advantage of the positive macroeconomics. We are doing an investor roadshow in London from the 23rd of this month. We intend also to do a regional outreach program together with other capital market actors, like the CMA, the Kenya Association of Stockbrokers and Investment Bankers, really to go to the 8 regions of Kenya and have town hall meetings with business owners to see how we can attract more companies to come to the Ebuka program, and not just the Ebuka program, even to the main industry market segment. If we look at companies, for example, like Defki, which is opening up an industry every couple of months, I see no reason why we cannot actively engage those business owners to try and bring those companies to list, not for many more reasons than one. I mean, we need to see more improvement of access to capital, democratization of wealth, get these companies to also be able to raise money other than from the banking circles and also from the development partners, because you see there is, and I've said it many times before on this program, there's more money than there are products in our capital market today. So we need to work hard, very, very hard, to make sure that we bring these companies so we have more products. And if we look at the positive outturn, and I'm sure we'll be talking about the main market segment in a few minutes, the president has committed to work with us in terms of trying to persuade these business owners to come to market. Last week we had a meeting with the CS National Treasuries, and we have a program with him, not just to look at enterprises in Kenya, but in the region as well. So we have a program to go to Uganda, to go to Kigali, to try and talk to business owners, so that we, rather than have many fragmented capital markets in East Africa, let's see if we can have a single window. And the thing that COVID taught us is that actually we are a technology platform. We ran that market for 2 years without anybody stepping there during COVID. So we can actually run a regional exchange in Nairobi or wherever it is, virtually, that will be able to give access to capital for business owners and to give investors an opportunity to access ownership in these enterprises. Yes.
All right, Patrick, you want to say something?
No, I think I'm fine.
All right, I want just to follow through with the question, even as we're still on NSC. Now that we have also some good news regarding our shillings performing very well in the sub-Saharan Africa, stimulation has also picked up at the NSC, the activities that we can see. But I wanted to ask, many of the shareholders, they've been avoiding the bonus share scheme.
Yes.
I mean, that has been dropping. How is that working out right now?
What do you mean, bonus shares?
The firm, because they said the firm listed on NSE Security Exchange, I think last year avoided bonus share scheme to shareholders as the value of investor wealth or the BOWS dropped to 27.54%.
I understand your question.
Yeah.
You see, the thing about bonus shares is that bonus shares are normally offered by companies to reward shareholders as opposed to giving them dividends. So that if a company, for example, is continuing to reinvest its surplus revenue in growth of the business, rather than give out a dividend, you would give a bonus share.
Bonus share.
Yeah. So you see, in a shrinking market, the bonus share would be less of an incentive to a business owner. But let me talk about the main market, if you don't mind, for a few minutes. You know, we are in good times, Debal, and I cannot congratulate the National Treasury and the controllers of our macroeconomic environment for having dodged the bullet. I mean, I'm sure like yourselves here, you read publications from all over the world. And, you know, Kenya was one of the countries that were listed as potential debt default territory. And many people held their breath to say that we were going to go down the same route as Ghana, the same route as many other countries that have been able to have failed to fulfill their Eurobond payment obligations. But we dodged that bullet. And I think kudos to those people who are in charge of our situation. Now, as a consequence of that, our dollar is the best performing. Kenya shilling to dollar is the best performing currency in sub-Saharan Africa, and that is a reality because it was trading 2 days ago at 127 when the market closed on Friday. Our stock exchange has also been now moved to become the best performing exchange in Africa, with a 30 percentage point in dollar terms for investors year to date. That is because of the positive macroeconomic situation that we're in. If we look at our key shares like ACB, like Safaricom and others, they have all gained up to 20% of value in the recent past. The FTSE Russell Index has been able to move Kenya from watch restricted to pass. And the reason for that is because Kenya was on the restricted list because of access, because of capital mobility issues. You know, about 7 months ago, you could get your dividend off these companies, but it was really difficult to access the forex to repatriate your currency. That problem has been resolved. The Central Bank of Kenya stepped in, and access to dollars today is not an issue in Kenya anymore. So we moved from restricted to pass. And as a consequence of that, we've seen BlackRock, which is the largest capital management firm in the globe, with over 100 trillion shillings in investable assets, $1 trillion in investable assets, make a decision that they were going to start to invest in Kenya, and they already have started to invest in Kenya. We shall be meeting with them in London later this month. So if we look at it, all boats are rising. And there's a very, very positive indication that especially now with the toning down of the interest rates by the Feds in the United States, that we will see a lot more movement of capital from the developed world markets to the frontier markets like Kenya. That is why I say, and I want to repeat, that this is the best moment for us to do public sector listings. This is the best moment for us to really talk to business owners to bring their companies to market. And this is the best time for us to really revitalize the capital markets and take it to a point where it's even far beyond where President Kibaki had taken it. If we look at our bond trading, for example, the BAL, year to date, we've traded 450 billion shillings in bonds, year to date. The whole of last year, we traded 642 billion, which means that if we continue on the same trajectory, by the end of June of this year, which will be half the year, or July 1st of this year, we should be able to have surpassed our entire bond trading turnover for 2023. Our aim is to trade 1 trillion shillings this year in bonds. So, in my opinion, let's congratulate those who are charged with the responsibility of managing our macro economy for all these positive indications, and let us as a country take maximum advantage and take our rightful place in being the economic leader of the East African region. Having said that, let's go back to commerce on the ground. there's still huge challenges. And I do hope that as they are fixing the economy, and we've been engaging with these leaders. Last week was the National Treasury. This week, today, we will be at the Central Bank of Kenya. We would like to really see how these benefits can trickle down to commerce at the local level in the country. Because running a business is still a huge and a tall order.
I wanted just to pick up on BlackRock.
Yes.
Because I think in Africa, we have the biggest boon of actually having them investing in this country.
Yes.
Is the renewable energy the biggest motivator and stimulating factor for them choosing this country?
Very good, very interesting that you said that, because BlackRock was the first major fund manager to make a decision that they will be no longer investing in companies that are not ESG compliant and that are still predominantly focused on fossil fuels. So they said that by the year 2030, they're going to divest completely from those type of enterprises, and that was a huge indicator of the direction that they're taking. So in Kenya, as you know, the NSE has been at the forefront of ESG compliance. We are asking all listed companies to make sure that they have sustainability reports. A few weeks ago, we hosted the chairman or the president of the global sustainability standards. So we want to first ensure that there is proper standardization of the ESG or sustainability reports to make sure that we are complying to global best practice. We would also like to see a very well-governed carbon trading market that will also, by extension, give Kenya the ability to raise climate action funds, to grow its economy and to realize other economic benefits therein. So yes, BlackRock, giving a nod to Kenya is a major and a very significant event. And I'm very, very sure that Vanguard and other such like enterprises will soon follow suit. But again, the problem would be, do we have the products for them? Because you must realize that for these people, the amount of money that they move to frontier markets is a decimal of a percentage. But if you do have the products, if you do have the investable assets for them, they can move a significant amount of money, enough to even really move the dial of our economy.
Yeah. I think I'd like to add on to what Kep is saying. When you look at the push by this government in terms of green energy and climate resilience and all these climate issues, somewhere our president, I don't know whether it was by design or by default, he actually hit the right buttons around the world around this green issue. And so what you're seeing, and I think the NSE also went right by talking about ESG and sustainability reporting, which quite a few companies have been doing for some time, but now the whole push to ESG, where you are actually seen to be a responsible corporate, especially in sustainability matters, that is a whole new area that will, one, create opportunities for investment. And when you talk about all these power stations, companies who are sort of in the food and flour area and all the rest of it, going green and going sustainable, companies like BlackRock are actually saying we are giving Kenya a tick in terms of
I'm sorry to butt in. There's a breaking story that we actually, of course, are trickling into a studio regarding John Moi, who has been pronounced dead. And there is a statement there from the family. We're saying we're deeply saddened to announce the passing on of our beloved June Chebet Moi this morning. At this time of grief, we request for your prayers and privacy as we, the family, come to terms with the tragic loss of our sister. May her soul rest in eternal peace. That is the letters that we're getting from, of course, the Moi family right now. Devastating story that we're deeply saddened to announce the passing on of our beloved June Chebet Moi this morning. At this time of grief, we request for your prayers and privacy as we, the family, come to terms with the tragic loss of our sister. May her soul rest in eternal peace. Information still scanty, and we'll be, of course, delivering and relaying more information regarding the demise of June Chebet Moi, much later in the course of the program. This is what we are waking up to this morning, and Yes, I just want maybe to give each of you also an opportunity to just share your deepest sympathy and, of course, any regrets and encourage the family as well. Kipron Kitoni.
Well, that's really very, very sad to hear that right now when we are in the process of discussing all the positive things that are happening in our economy. I've known June for obviously since childhood, and I remember her as a very sporty individual, very, very, very positive person. She was the first African female polo player. I remember when June started playing polo in 1989 or 1990 that she was trying to encourage me to learn how to play as well, and I used to go and watch her, and I'd always marvel at how brave she was to be on a fast galloping horse. And I remember also she was very interested in vehicles, and she was a great mother to her daughter as well. So I'd like to convey my very sincere condolences to the Moy family at the loss of June.
All right, Patrick Abath.
I think also share that, and sincere condolences to the family. I didn't know June personally, but I followed her because it was of interest to know the family and everything else. And I think she was a quiet one at the back, who sort of, that was the kind of person that I would sort of empathize with as a person who was very, very solid, very, very quiet and doing a lot of things in the background. And I think she didn't really want to be in the limelight, and that was one of the qualities. But a lot of the stuff that she did behind the scenes, I think, cemented the name of the family in the locale. So we really give our condolences to the Moy family on the loss of June.
Indeed. Professor Exenerak.
Yes, this is a very sad moment to break our discussion, but I would pass my condolences to the Moy family for the passing of their beloved daughter. As Patrick Abath said, I have not met her, but I have no doubt that her good works will be remembered for generations to come.
Right. Yes, Isakwa.
Yeah, I should add my voice to that. I know her by name and family reputation. She seemed to have been the independent spirit behind the scenes, and that's a good way to pass life. Wish her soul rest in eternal peace.
All right, we shall relay more information much later. He's a sister to, of course, former Senator Gideon Moy, and we condole with the family right now. If you're waking up this morning, this is what we are waking up to. The information coming to hand right now, the passing on of June Chebet Moy, and the family is deeply saddened to make this announcement at this time of grief. The family is requesting for your prayers and privacy as the family come to terms with the tragic loss of their sister. May her soul rest in eternal peace. We shall continue, of course, relaying that in our subsequent bulletin to just give you information moving forward. Patrick, yes, I interrupted your train of thoughts to just have that breaking news. But as we are planning also just to wind up the show as well, I wanted just to bring out a very important issue that we've not discussed. Maybe we could reconsider, and if my director may just pick up this, because they're saying crisis as unremitted workers' pension hit 42 billion shillings. We have 1,000 of workers at cash-strapped parastatals risking retiring empty-handed after the employer failed to remit monthly deductions to pension schemes. The Treasury has warned. And I think there's a legislation that was on the floor of the House that was kicked out, that we need to revise maybe the retirement age to 55. And looking on, we have also BBC just announcing the other day that retiring in your 60 is becoming an impossible goal. And is asking, is 75 the new 65? Right?
Yep.
So maybe people are living longer. This is what the report is saying, because the lifestyle have now improved. People are living longer at 75, and now they're grappling with the issues of retirement. Should we let go of people who they become very consummate and very good in their field, let them retire at 60, or should we prolong that particular age to 75? Because you can see even from government, some of these people are being recalled because there's not been any passage of expertise or mentorship, so to speak. Particular briefly.
When you look at retirement ages globally, they are driven by the biggest debt holder in terms of not having sufficient money to pay out as people retire. And that generally tends to be governments and large corporations like that. Most other pension schemes that are there are funded to suit the retirement age that they've set. Mm-hmm. I retired at 55 because the scheme I was in was funded to that level, and it was actually then able to fund beyond. And those were in the days of the defined benefit schemes. The defined contribution is not going to be linked to the age, the retirement age. The retirement age is just at the time you choose to leave. So I think we need to move away from DB to DC, and once you've done that one, then the retirement age is no longer an issue, because it is your money and it is invested, and the place you've invested in are the people who worry about it. But so long as you've got a DB, and I think I'm not an expert in pensions and everything else, but the DB is the one that actually sets your retirement age. And the government, correct me if I'm wrong, is actually on a DB.
What's DB?
Yeah, government is on DB, it's not on DC.
We want to know what DB is. What is this?
Yeah, defined benefit is where you find so much, and the benefit is defined. So it means that the scheme will have to make sure that the benefit is achieved. Okay. Whereas a defined contribution is you put your money in, it's invested, and whatever comes out is what you get. So I don't guarantee that you're going to get a certain return on that contribution, apart from where you invested.
But there are conversations, I think, globally, especially from the West now, they're trying to look at the issue of retirement. Who came up and mooted this idea of a retirement at the end of the day?
It was those areas, because of the pension schemes that were put in as an incentive to attract people and keep them in a company. Because when you got a very good pension at the end of the time, you stay. But if it isn't good, then you move.
But the whole aspect of just retirement.
Yeah.
Can I chip in?
Yeah, you can chip in. Because now this is a conversation everyone is broaching and asking, should people really retire at the end of the day?
I think this is an interesting debate coming at the end.
At the end, of course, and
yes.
we will not give...
the first issue that we have not put a lot of time on is unremitted deductions. So every end of the month, some money is deducted from my salary for pension. It does not go to the pensioner or the person who is supposed to take care of my pension. And that has an unintended consequence of driving corruption, because if I'm not sure of getting my pension at the end of my retirement, I have to look for a way of getting that money so that I can feel secure. But the bigger issue is, should we retire? I think this issue of linking retirement to age is wrong from an economic perspective. Because as long as you are productive, not to worry whether you are 75 or 55. And because of advances in medicine, life expectancy is going on or is going up. So people should work longer. I remember working in North America, and one of my co-workers was 80 years old, and she was coming to work earlier than me. So because of life expectancy, because of better health, we should focus on productivity, not the age at which you retire. There has been a debate in this country that we should retire at 55 so that we create jobs in this country. And I think that's a very lazy way of creating jobs. Because what we need to do is we make the economy grow so that there's demand for workers. So that we even start calling people for retirement, they come and contribute to the economy. In my opinion, retiring early at 55 and so on is wasting economic resources, wasting productive years. And I think what we should be focusing is not the retirement age, but how we can make our workers more productive, how we can expand the economy so that we have demand for workers and more people work beyond the retirement age. Retirement age, in my opinion, is a myth. As long as you're productive, continue working.
All right.
Yeah. A couple of things. First, not remitting deductions. That should be a serious criminal offense. Companies, entities should not mislead. The employee has surrendered their earnings for the month. The expectation that the employer will match it, will do what they're supposed to do, and pass it on. And too often people discover this only after they are retiring. That, oops, sadly, my money never went. The same to NSSF contributions, same to NHF contributions. And we don't see anybody ending up in jail for it. That should be discouraged strongly. Now, I retired at 60. I could have gone on to 62. My employer allowed up to 62. And the other day I was having a chat with people I've gotten to know who are mostly university people. And I think one of the universities who was moving the retirement age back from seeking to move it below 70 or something like that, I forget which institution it was. And I was saying for academic institutions, it should be open-ended. If it's not 80, it should be open-ended. You know, you serve as long as you meet the requirement, you publish, you do research, whatever it is that you are supposed to be a deliverables at that age. And people who retire at 70 do not give room for a young man of 25 to get in. You know, these are too far removed. Their contributions to the economy are completely different. I think that this retirement business should be negotiated within segments of employment. If the public sector, government wants to retire their employees at 55, so be it. Other parts of the economy will absorb them because they still can be productive. In the days of the one preceding that, when HIV had become rampant, it was beginning to look like maybe people should be retiring at a much younger age, because now they had to give room for people to work only for 5-10 years, and there would be life expectancy was so short in those days. I really think there should be localized discussions within the entities that are involved.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, thank you. Tony, let's just...
Okay, I think for me, you know...
And our closing remarks.
I think I am probably the least qualified to have this conversation, because I have spent most of my life as a self-employed individual. So I don't even relate to the concept, because I think about it and I say, okay, at what point will I retire? Because I've been working at my own pace for the rest of my adult life. But I, again, would like to, side on the side of productivity. I think the focus should be on productivity. What is the productivity of an individual? What is his contribution? And I think as a country we need to focus on making sure that our people are as productive or more productive than they are currently today. And I think also, I look at the world's leading investors, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, who died last year at the age of 99. He worked until 99. And they don't relate to the concept of retirement. But I think it's an individual choice, and I think we need to completely frown upon the non-remittance of pension funds.
Fantastic. Your closing remarks?
My closing remarks are, we are hopeful that the economy will continue to rise, and we would like the government to really look at how we can encourage commercial activity at the grassroots level and really step up the fight against corruption. Thank you. Your closing remarks, Patrick Abath.
Yeah, I just make a quick thing on pensions. Pensions actually started as widows' benefits. That was where it started off from, because widows were to be looked after when the husband died and there was nothing left there. So just think about where pensions came from and where we're discussing today.
Interesting.
And for me, I think the key thing is that I hope that these changes that are happening in our economy, especially with the shilling strengthening and staying there.
Thank you.
That will continue.
Thank you. That's an
Mine is very simple from the discussion here. It seems on the economic front, to put our carry, the storm is over. And I hope it's going to be permanent. The storm is going to pass away.
Thank you.
The economy is going to keep improving.
The storms will keep coming back, unfortunately. But what is of interest is that only a few months ago, people were very pessimistic about the economy, about the volatility of the shilling, and blah, blah. And now they're switching. It doesn't take much for people to switch one way or the other. And it's because people don't look at the fundamentals.
Thank you.
They have seen this before.
Thank you. Gentlemen, I really appreciate the discussion this morning. Very incisive, insightful, and very rich as well. As far as the state of the economy is concerned, thank you for coming through. I really do appreciate it. It is always a treat having you on Thursday. Right, we want to wind up the show and just maybe to remind you, attend a reminder on the breaking news this morning, the latest developments so far, that we are sadly breaking this news of the family, that is the Moyo family, which is deeply saddened to announce the passing on of their beloved Jude Chebet Moi this morning. At this time of grief, they request for your prayers and privacy as the family come to terms with the tragic loss of their sister. May her soul rest in eternal peace. We'll just give information as it comes to hand Right now, the information is scanty, but in our subsequent bulletins, of course, we shall give you rich stream of information on the demise of June Chebet Moi. Thank you for your valued company. You've been watching Sokoni here on Morning Prime. News Diary is up next.